Hey y'all. Well, we're in between the raindrops this evening. I think the monsoon weather pattern has passed just a bit. Got a lot on my mind tonight. Let's see if we can all get it out without going into a complete ramble. I'm looking out here at this corn, and I don't know what's worse, all the weeds in it or the fact that it's yellow. Of course, those that have grown corn know that it likes a lot of water, but if I listen real close, I think it's crying uncle. Good book says moderation in all things, and I think it's had all it can stand. But I think first of the week, we got a little break in the rain, 40 or 50% chance. I remember the day farming on this place, if I saw 40 or 50% chance, I was excited for rain that we'd get it. And now I'm like, oh, good. That means we may not get it. This old ground saturated. But it can be a good thing. It can. I guess I'm kind of an odd duck that way. Most of you followed for a few years know that. But I celebrate the sovereignty of God's law and his physics and how it all works together. And the same rain that soaked this old ground and put us in a lurch probably helped save my foot this last week. Right? So I'll tell you one thing, if I had the keys to all the decisions, we'd be in a mess. I think if any of us did, we get mad when they don't give us enough hot sauce on our order or put lettuce on our burger when we didn't want it, much less run this whole universe. But got into a little scrape, as y'all can see. Everything's just fine, walking good, a little swollen still. After my tussle with that skid steer, 8,000 pounds of technology and weight, and one misstep by a goofball like me could have ended in disaster. Funny about disasters, we like to blame those on God and wonder why he doesn't intervene. And he's not a micromanager, folks. We know that. It's horrible. But those same flash floods and things that was spun out with the laws way back in time that take lives can do other things, such as save a foot in soft dirt under a big old piece of equipment. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being cavalier about it. Blessed and thankful that it wasn't any worse, but 4 days ago I was laying on my back, twisted underneath the skid steer, and with the quick thought of my cousin, and he was able to get it off of there pretty quick, and here I am today walking on two legs again, and thankful. And that's just how it goes, isn't it? I think a lot of us worry a lot of times about just stuff. I hadn't spent a whole lot of time worrying on this garden. It's big. I remember in 2018 when I moved back, had that little hand plow down there by the chicken coop, broke up about a 40 by 30 or 40 by 20 plot, and I was happy with it. And then got a little tiller from an old friend and broke up a little more. And the next full year, 2019, was probably the prettiest garden I put on this place yet. And it wasn't done with the tractor, and it was done with a hand tiller, and about a third, well, probably about a quarter of this size. And I was thinking about that today, and some of these old seed sprouts that I planted last week have washed down there in the cut. And there's an old boy named Jerry Chestnut back in 1970. He lived in, he's born in Kentucky, moved to Nashville, and lived in a little cabin out on the lake. And he was growing prize-winning teacup roses. He was new at it, so he was leaning on the gardening center there for a year or two. And one year, everything he was doing right by their instruction, but they just wasn't coming along. And he was working on a gospel song. He was a songwriter. And he went down to the garden center to ask, and the old boy that he had trusted for all the advice said, well, Jerry, it's just not a good year for the roses. And that struck him pretty hard. He went down and wrote a hit for an old boy we call the Possum from Saratoga, Texas. Good year for the roses. And I thought about that. 2019 was a good year for the peas. And it was a good year for the roses. That's the year Mom passed. It wasn't a good year for us because we was going through the heartache. But she had made her final destination. 2021 has not been a good year for the peas, but it's been a good year for everything else. Reconnecting with the love and heartthrob of my life, my wildflower down in Georgetown, and I'm still Twitter-pated. Y'all can look that up. Some of you know the reference, but yeah, it's not been a good year for the peas. The whole thought behind that song was, what if it was a good year for the roses and everything else went downhill? Well, the opposite is true this year. It's a bad year for the peas, but everything else is good, right? Good stuff. We've got more peas. I mean, I wanted all of it, sure. Overreached a little bit and didn't plan for the erosion. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I'm still going to have more produce. Maybe not as pretty, but we'll still have more produce than I have in years past, I suppose. Reminded me, we've probably got about a half a mile more than we did. Reminded me of them old hunters. Went up in Alaska to hunt for moose. They were seasoned at it. They'd done it before. The sky jockey dropped them off. They did their hunt, and they both killed a moose. They radioed for a pickup. The pilot showed up in this little plane and looked at him in disbelief. He said, "Guys, I told you the deal was this plane can only hold the weight of us and one moose. I can't take both of them." They argued with him and said, no, last year the pilot, we was able to take both of them. Okay, well, if y'all were able to do it last year, we'll try it this year. So they struggled and heaved and hoed and put them big 2 moose in the back of that plane, loaded up. That little old Cessna was struggling to get off the ground. It finally made it just enough to hit the hill ahead of it. Couldn't make it over it. The weight was too great. As they climbed out of the crashed plane, one hunter gets on top of the hill. He looks around and said, "Where are we?" The other hunter climbs up beside him. He looks. He said, "Well, I think we're about a half mile further than we were last year." Sometimes it's good to ask a few more questions if you're the pilot, isn't it? Oh, my old rain bucket down there, that's my rain gauge. I guess folks from the country know if you get something flat-sided, no oval, and straight down, it don't matter if it's 10 foot across or 3 inches across, it's going to measure rain accurately. That's just how it goes. But this is since Tuesday. Y'all can't tell it, but it's about 6 inches in there. I think we're at 32 inches for the year on this place against 19 as a normal. That's part of it. You can't worry. Worry is just faith in the negative. It's trusting in the unpleasant, just assurance of disaster, and belief in defeat. It's kind of like piling up tomorrow's troubles and wasting that time and the opportunities of tomorrow with yesterday's trouble. It ain't much to it when you think about it. Ain't no sense in worrying. Most of it doesn't happen anyway. You could take a big old dense fog and lay it over 7 city blocks, 100 feet deep. If you was able to gather them all up, the amount of water in that fog wouldn't fill up half a glass of water, maybe a full glass. 60,000 million drops spread out over 7 city blocks. It isn't much to it, and it'd barely quench our thirst, but it'll sure cripple a whole city. So worry, no sense in it. It's sovereign. You know, James, in the good book, pretty close to Jesus. Some say he's his brother, but either way, he walked the same ground that Jesus did. He let us know that life is but a vapor. This ain't the goal. No sense in worrying. Just get through it, trust, and have faith. Pretty good for me. Talked to my cousin the other night, and we did dodge a pretty good round of storms once this week. They got him out his way, about 30 miles from here. But he said he'd never heard thunder like that. That's what's been rough. It's been in the evening when there's no sunshine or anything to evaporate what's coming down. But we got around to that too. Made me think of a little boy that was pretty skittish about those thunderstorms, and one summer one rolled in as they were going to bed. His mom tucked him in for the night. Little boy was walking away from his bed and was just about to turn off the light when the trembling voice came across the room and said, "Mama, can you stay with me in here all night?" She walked back over to his bedside and kissed his forehead, gave him a reassuring hug, and said, "Baby, it's going to be all right. I have to stay in Daddy's room tonight." The little boy teared up. Long silence ensued. Finally looked at his mom in the eye and he said, "That big sissy." Isn't that about how it goes? That's all right. That is all right. Well, all is well on the place. I'm looking forward to some partly cloudy skies next week, and that rain will kind of evaporate up just a bit to bring it out there and get those weeds out of that corn. That's going to have to be by hand and a little bit of tiller. But we'll get it back in ship shape in no time. And if we don't, that's okay too, right? We have to take the hand we're dealt. I was thinking about my old foot. Here's the boot that I was wearing when I got run over. And y'all can see it doesn't even have a scrape. It's miraculous, no doubt. No doubt at all. But it's funny posting that, I guess you'd call it a praise report or thankfulness on Facebook. Brought everybody out and praising how miraculous that was. And it was. And I'm not going to diminish that. I was extremely fortunate and blessed to not have severe injuries on it. But it really got me to thinking about how funny we are as humans. And we see an event like that that's so dramatic, and what we take is just so unbelievable that I was able to walk away from something like that. And we forget this old country road in front of me, Farm to Market Road. Those cars run back and forth too fast. But at 70 miles an hour, they're 6 foot away from each other and certain death. We don't hear anybody celebrating how they made it past it. 20 cars on their way home, trusting in mechanics of linkage and gas and steering, and the other person not being on their phone and not swerving at the right time. Or even every breath we take. How miraculous is that? I know it'd be silly to put on Facebook, "Oh my goodness, I just took a breath today." To us, it's not a big deal because we assume it's going to happen anyway. There's a lot of folks that ain't doing it, and we still hadn't put our finger on what causes it, right? So it's the simpleness of miracles that I like to focus on and celebrate. Sure am thankful to be walking around with no cast and still have my limb and just a little bit of slight swelling. But more than anything, it made me thankful for all the other things that we overlook, right? Told you I'm an odd duck, so be careful if you share this. But all right, well, it's getting dark. I'm gonna do a quick roll call, and we'll call it an evening. I got chickens hatching out all over the place here, y'all, and I think we've got about 20 in there, about less than 2 weeks old. And I've got stages. I've got the teenagers, as I call them. They're back there in the closed coop where the big birds can't get to them. They're about 12 weeks old. And I've got some 6-week-old out here in the chicken condo, but replenishing the stock of the flock. Hey, that rhymes. How about that? Anyway, the goats are doing good. I locked them up in the backyard for a little while today just to let them mow it a little bit. I got to get the mower belt on my riding lawn mower the drive belt. Got to get that replaced. Just been too busy, and I guess stove up this week to get it done. But this whole place is getting shaggier than I am. My wildflower said I need to get a haircut. I believe she's right. I'm probably going to get in trouble for walking around tonight, but she knows I'm hard-headed. But just blessed. I'm on the mend. I'll be back to full speed probably Monday, and thankful. Sure am. Just in time for a little weeding out here. My poor little old pea sprouts. Y'all look at this. They washed out of the garden, and they're trying. They're doing their best. They was sprouting. I got them everywhere. But that's part of it. Farming. It'll teach you a little patience, or a lot of patience, and a lot of faith, and a lot of understanding if you'll let it. No sense worrying. That's faith in the negative. So we'll take it as it comes. I'm not going to show her sunflowers that she planted by the outhouse. They're there. I know she's probably watching at some point, but I've got a goofball goat that likes to reach over the wire I got up there and nip the tops of them, but they'll be all right. They just may a little bit slower to put on a flower. Goats got to eat, or we got to eat the goats. She ain't going to go for that, so I guess they'll get to eat the sunflowers. All right, let me do a quick roll call. Y'all sound off where you're at. Let me know what's happening Saturday night, and hope y'all have a great evening and are able to gather with folks of like minds and have a blessed Sunday in the morning. All right, I'm going to roll back through. I'm probably going to be out of context on a lot of these comments, but that's just how it goes. If I can go back through here. Hope I don't miss anybody tonight. There's Donna down Huntsville Way. How are you, ma'am? Wow, man, she says. Deborah's checking in. Joanna, next week after Tuesday will be seasonal and dry finally. Yes, ma'am, it will. That's right. We're going to be clamoring for rain here in about 4 weeks. Y'all watch what I'm telling you. Or we'll be ripping about the rain. We're humans. We ain't going to like it however it comes. That's why I'm glad ain't none of us at the control switch, because we'd have it messed up quick. There's Miles. Good evening, Joel, from Arlington, Texas. God bless you. God bless you too, sir. Let's see who else is on there. There's Miss Alexis. Looks like it's finally growing. Yep, that and the weeds. So we got to knock the weeds back to give the plants a head start. I'm going to fertilize that corn this week. It's done got too much water and yellow. I usually give it one hit of 3300 and then let it do what it's going to do. Right? It needs a little help after all this water. Manuel, hey buddy. Mucho weight on such a small place. I'm gonna rub your head tomorrow. Well, wait a minute. I'm gonna beat you up when I grow up. That's gonna be a while. 'Cause you bigger than me. No, love you, brother. There's Donna checking in. Good evening to you, ma'am. Byron from Waxahachie. Well, howdy to Waxahachie. That's quite a ride from here. I lived in Waco, so I know right where you're at. Let's see here. Manuel's thankful as well. Alexis, thank goodness. There's my buddy Ray Lucas. Appreciate you, man. Funny how life twists and turns. Ray was classmate for a lifetime there in Huntsville High School, and we got to sit under Mr. Oliphant and Forestry. Forestry just turned into and that's okay. I wouldn't trade it for nothing. I think Forestry just turned into a 2-hour morning class where we got to go get donuts and cut down a few trees. But there might not have been a curriculum per se, but I think we learned more about life in that 2 hours than we ever did in algebra. I'm still applying principles from that. And I don't know that I've done any algebra today, but I know how to tie a rope. That was free. I'm digressing. Ray knows what I'm talking about. Oh, and I know where to get good donuts and what they taste like, so we'll leave it at that. There's Deborah. How are you, ma'am? Let's see who else is checking in. Wish we'd get some rain here in Riverside, California. Well, y'all can have all of it you want. Don't wrestle with a skid steer. They always win. Well, this one didn't win, but I didn't either. I'm going to call it a draw. Yeah, it ain't limping tonight. If you crank it up and drive it, it ain't going to the right or the left. But I'm still going to call it a draw. But I didn't win. But it didn't either. Oh, man. They say what don't kill you makes you stronger, but I still don't think I can flip over a skid steer. I'm done with that. My cousin's done it, shook him up pretty bad. It was my fault altogether. But we got through it. We had some praying mamas storing up some prayers, so I'll take it. That hedge protection ain't no joke. Sometimes I wonder if the hedge is just as strong as it used to be as America goes on the course that it is, but I ain't gonna get on that. There's my good buddy Brian. Good to see you up and walking. Have you tried hydroponic peas? Only you, Brian. Only you would say that. You got a point. I guess I could just put a dam at the bottom of the pasture and just let it fill up with water and do that. That's an idea. Glenda Harris, how are you? Thank you. Let's see who else is on here real quick. I'm trying to scroll. Y'all, I don't look at this phone screen while I'm moving and talking because I'm distracted enough. And if I start watching your comments, I'm going to be in bad shape. But I'm trying to catch up with them now. Bernice, praying for a quick recovery. Oh, I'm good. There's my sister Kim. She finally caught me live. I remember watching those cars fly by on the highway many days sitting on the porch of Memo. That's right, that old porch swing. Got to get that put back up. Her and I were talking earlier. Of course, she's a teacher. And it's funny how generations change and cultures change. And she kind of lamented. She said, I think what it is, we're just becoming our parents. Well, we can only be that lucky. But I don't know if it's that. I think Pastor got it right. We don't have kids much anymore. We got little people. They've been exposed to so much. My mom and dad grew up playing with a stick, and I did too. Maybe it was a fancier stick with a wheel, but we were blessed not to have all the devices that distracted us. But now everybody's into their phone. Here we are. I'm broadcasting live, and you're on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook. But we were raised using our imagination, being cognitive thinkers. So hopefully we can usher that culture back in a little more. It's needed. There's Roy. Good evening to you. Remember that there are a lot of people that are praying for rain. That's correct. That is so correct. Yeah, we're not sitting at the master switch, so we have no idea. We just take what we can. There's my good friend Lewis out in Waco. Howdy. Good to see you, buddy. Michigan's in the house. There's Deborah. Ag is checking in from Allen, Texas. Hope you and your foot are doing better. Prayers for a speedy recovery. God bless you. Thank you. No, I'm doing fine, walking on it. Just aggravated. I got to sleep on the couch and have it elevated because I can't get it elevated right in the bed, but couch works out just right. So I got one more night of sleeping on the couch, and then maybe I'll be out of the doghouse, even though I'm not in the doghouse, but it kind of feels like I am. Then I'll be able to go back to my bedroom and crash out there. And things will be a little bit more normal. There's Aaron checking in from Wills Point, Texas. Linda's in the Texas Hill Country, and it's still raining. Well, thank goodness for it. Willie says, hey, hope you're on the mend. There's Terry checking in. Or Willis, I'm sorry. I was wondering who was. I thought Willie Nelson was sitting there with you. That'd be a whole nother conversation. Yep, I got you, Lewis. I know exactly where you're at. Good to see you on here, buddy. There's Andrew from Vermont. Let's see. I'm still scrolling. Okay, I think I got everybody. If I missed anybody, sorry. I can't blame it on my foot because it ain't hurting. But we'll just go with that. How's that? I guess I need to limp a little bit just in case. No, sure blessed. And avoiding worry. Yep. It's just a vapor, folks. Got to do what we can to make a difference. And I think even the smallest differences maybe make more impact than the broad strokes. But I sure had a prettier garden with a small tiller than I do with a big tractor. Something to think about. Blessed either way. Y'all have a good evening. Be the light. We'll talk with y'all later.